I got something new for you today. Dr. West went back on the Chris Cuomo show. Dr. Cornel West, the topic is Palestinians. And Dr. West pulls no punches.
Giving in advance, I'm thankful for you and your influence in my life.
It's always a blessing to be in dialogue with you, and you know I'm always pulling and praying for your precious family and Mama Matilda. Absolutely.
Thank you. She's a big fan, as you know. So, do you feel some sense of progress, relief, something positive if Israel says yes to this deal and there is a break in the bombing that allows more aid and maybe more progress in an exchange of hostages for prisoners?
Well, it would be a momentary pause, but let me say this, though, brother. I was listening to Brother Michael and yourself in the dialogue, and I detected what I would call a spiritual obscenity and moral bankruptcy, because there was no sensitivity at all to the fact that we're living in a genocidal attack in real time where nearly 7,000 children have been killed in less than 45 days. So all of the talk about X or Y is nothing but rationalizations of the proceeding, of the promoting of this kind of genocidal attack, though, brother. How do you, in the end, have a dialogue with both sides? I mean, Hamas has its own challenges. I agree with that. A war crime's a war crime, and war crimes are committed by Hamas, but Hamas is under occupation. And then you got the IDF that responds with genocidal attacks with 13,000 dead and 7,000 children, and it's happening all the time.
I hear you.
And then the ceasefire is just going to continue on and on and on. And so when I hear Brother Michael saying, he doesn't say a mumbling word about the Palestinian suffering, not a mumbling word about the 76 years of occupation, not a mumbling word about the fact prior to October 6th, they were killing Palestinians every day. You see, it's hard to build a bridge if you don't acknowledge that you got a major gulf in place here.
Two things. I don't disagree with you. Two things. First is a little bit of news.
Okay.
No two things, dog. No two things. No two things. Respond to that. Respond to what the man just said to you. The man said that you were just talking on the air. He was sitting there. He was listening to you to talk, and it was as if the children don't even exist. Chris Cuomo sitting up there talking about the strategy that Israel is going to employ, and if Hamas would just cooperate with Israel and then the IDF and blah 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 blah. And it was if children weren't being murdered as he was talking. Dr. West uses some of the strongest language I've ever heard him use about a person. Because Dr. West is often very diplomatic in his language, right? He said, I observed a spiritual obscenity and a moral bankruptcy. That means you got no soul, Chris. Yeah, I know Dr. West is really nice. He says a lot of really nice things. And just like every show he goes on, he sends out a nice tweet. He says, I was really glad to be in conversation with my dear brother. But you know what, my dear brother? If you are morally bankrupt, if you are spiritually obscene, you are not on the side of righteousness. You're not on the side of what's good, what's just. And then to sit up there and act like, well, I'm going to be very respectful. You know, we love having you on here, Dr. West. It's all condescending nonsense, man. You are a hack. And look, he's a hack. You are a hack if you are talking about children being killed as if it's nothing. Do you guys, I want people to understand. Look, I get it. There are some of you who don't care to hear about Palestinians. You don't care to hear about this line of talk. You got so much going on in your life. You're like, so what? I want to be respectful of that. I do. But America's doing this. If America said to Israel, if you don't stop it, we're going to pull the plug on our funding. We're going to pull our plug on your protection. Because, come on, guys, there are a lot of countries who wish they could get at Israel. They don't get at them because they got the American people, the American war machine in their back pocket. So if America would exercise its prestigious position, its domineering position, its influence, its heavy influence with Israel, there'd be a ceasefire tomorrow. They would talk tough, whatever his name, Bibi, that's it, Bibi. Bibi would talk tough for like 2 seconds, and then he would get his ass in gear. So, though we say, so many of us say we don't care about this, we do, maybe we do care about it, but we got to first handle what's at home. Dog, America has its tentacles and everything around the globe. And if American people don't stand up, and we don't speak up, and we don't say some shit, well, nothing ever be said, man, because if not for us, this type of stuff doesn't go on. That's how heavy America is in the globe. So we don't get to just say, hey, we got our own stuff, because our country's fingerprints are on this, because we allow it to happen. We allow a lot of other atrocities to occur as well. I understand that. We talked about Congo. We could talk about Haiti, which we helped overthrow. Haiti is what Haiti is because of us. But I want us, out of respect for each topic, we ain't got to bring up other topics while we're talking about one topic. I want to get back to Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo is garbage. I want to be nice about it, but I can't find the words for it. Chris Cuomo. Dr. West said that there were 7,000 children killed in 45 days. I don't know about that number. Maybe I misheard him with the numbers. I've heard different numbers, man. Thought it was 4,000. He said 7,000. Maybe I misheard. It's in the thousands. Your response to that, the response from you about how you brushed that aside and started talking semantics with a previous guest, your response is, well, hold on, let me switch the subject. Let me pivot. I like this in Dr. West. I like the fact he brought it to you. Dr. West, you don't need my advice. Who am I? Nobody. But I love this from Dr. Cornel West. I love it. Bring it to them. Bring it to them. Let's hear a little bit more of this dialogue between the two men. Yeah, let's do
that. It is good to have you, sir. Happy Thanksgiving in advance. I'm thankful for you and your influence in my life.
About the Palestinian suffering, not a mumbling word about the 76 years of occupation, not a mumbling word about the fact prior to October 6th, they were killing Palestinians every day. You see, it's hard to build a bridge if you don't acknowledge that you got a major gulf in place here.
Two things. I don't disagree with you. Two things. First is a little bit of news.
Okay.
The Israeli cabinet agreed a majority of votes. The hostages' families or others have 24 hours to appeal to the Supreme Court to object to the deal. So there's a little bit more process here than I was aware of. I thought it was a purely political decision. So they've passed it. There is an appeal period. I wouldn't be surprised if there is one, because you know it's not all the hostages. Okay, so now that's the news. Now to the second part. With all due respect.
But what about the Palestinian prisoners? Are the Palestinian prisoners going to be exchanged? Is it a mutual kind of thing here?
That is
you got 7,000 Palestinians
proposal.
In jail with no trial, trial.
I'm with you. But that was the proposal to give them back 100 and whatever prisoners. That was approved, but now we'll see if people appeal it and what the court says. So that's on the news side. Now, on the...
Because I just want to make sure we got the humanity across the board.
Yeah,
we got to keep track of the humanity across the board.
Cornel,
I'm with you. All right.
I'm with you. But here's the thing. I believe And I believe, and people can criticize me for this, I've known you a long time, and I believe it's all coming from a good place. That you see the suffering in Palestine, and they are clearly the disempowered portion of this, and they are living in a hellscape. And that is true in the West Bank also, and it's been true for a long time. And we have been short on answers and long on suffering. You know, that's the reality.
That's right.
However,
that's right.
Hamas does not have its own problems with war crimes. Hamas is a war crime. Hamas is a terror organization that does not keep its word, and the UN just put down a resolution that Russia and the United States abstained on, but everybody else agreed on. Give back all the hostages. You don't get what you want when you go into another country and steal the innocent and massacre the way they did and then not give them all back. I'm very surprised. Now, I know why they don't want to give them all back, and you do too, which is they got trouble if they don't have those hostages protecting them in those tunnels. But what about the fairness there, that they're getting rewarded for stealing the innocents?
Well, I mean, one is that, you know, we've got to have a moral consistency in terms of war crimes being a war crime. Killing innocent people is a war crime. There's no doubt about that. And that we have to be upfront about that. Murder is murder. At the same time, though, you see, when you try every nonviolent effort, the first Intifada, 87, nonviolent, crushed. The second Intifada, 2000, mainly nonviolent, crushed.
Does
then
not
you're going to end up with
terrorism.
Hamas.
Does
No,
not
but I
justify
mean,
terrorism.
but brother, you got the U.S. Civil War with the armed guerrillas of George Washington, where they're involved in terrorism, when they killed innocent English folk. When Nat Turner killed innocent white folk. They were wrong. They were wrong. Hamas is wrong. But they were occupied. They were resisting. Why? Because the world was paying no attention to the suffering of their children, just like right now Palestinian children are not receiving any attention from the U.S. government, from the Israeli government, other than to continue the genocide.
That's right. It doesn't change. It doesn't change, man. It's like, I know they're talking about Palestinians, but it could be talking about us too. Talking about black people too. It's the same old rhetoric, man. You see the empty face on Chris Cuomo? Like none of it pierces the soul and makes them think at all. Dog, they invaded, they occupied, they went to someone's land and said, this is ours now. And the people that stayed, because that's where their parents and their grandparents had been living, who had nowhere to go, they then were put into an apartheid state with this new regime around them. Do you understand? Does that make sense? So the people that are there who try to negotiate, dog, this one of the worst things about this is people know exactly what you mean. They just play dumb. They just gaslight you to death as if they don't understand what you're saying. What would America do if somebody came to America and said, oops, California's ours, and then took over? What would you do if someone came and took your home and said, this is ours now? You fighting them is not the same as them fighting you, is it? Is it or is it not? 76 years of occupation. Chris Cuomo has no response. And look, I understand Chris Cuomo he's not to blame for this, but I'm saying he's a representative of all the media that act like they don't understand what's happening. As if they don't get it. Like we're talking about something that is beyond imagination. 76 years of people being occupied by an external force that came into their land. Dr. West says there's been killings of Palestinians every day since, for 76 years. I don't remember Chris Cuomo reporting on it. I don't remember anybody on MSNBC reporting on it that didn't get fired. Right now, people are losing jobs because they're saying we need a ceasefire. Right now, we got people, they're college students, just for protesting and saying they should cease fire. People are threatening to take away their future careers. Not only are people losing present jobs, they're losing the promise or the idea of a future job. Some may lose scholarships for just saying cease fire. So this issue here I just want people to look at how broadly this is applying and how many people it does impact and how hypocritical the whole system is. Chris Cuomo said it's a good place to start this momentary ceasefire if they get to it, and that he recognizes that the Palestinians have been in disempowered position. Disempowered position when somebody basically comes and puts you in an open air prison? That's a disempowered position. Oh. Even the language in which they try to describe the situation, they tried their best to sugarcoat it just to influence the masses to not believe what they think they're hearing. A disempowered position. When somebody comes and takes your land and then basically puts you in jail, that controls your movements, that's more than disempowered. That's called apartheid. That's what that's called. They don't even have the guts to call it what it is. They don't even have the guts to call it what it is because they support their government enforcing it and co-signing it and funding it. That's what America's been doing. And it's okay. We have enough bandwidth to say this should not happen. This should stop. And I want people to be clear, man. When you're sitting up there and you're jumping up and down for Trump, he agrees with Israel. Stop giving me this nonsense like it's got to be Trump or Biden. It needs to be neither one of them. That's why I support Dr. West. Because both of them, Biden and Trump, are for what Israel's doing. Hell, Trump is worse than Biden on this issue. So all my black Trumpers, and just to say, well, the Palestinians don't care about black people, that don't got nothing to do with this. First of all, I don't agree with you. I got evidence that proves you wrong, but that don't have anything to do with the fact that when people are being slaughtered and you got people that look the other way on it, what makes you think they care about us? What makes you think they would do different if it was us? See, what I'm saying is, the same people that are looking the other way about what Israel is doing to the Palestinians have no problem looking the other way when we're getting our teeth kicked in, when we're getting our heads blown off, when we're getting falsely arrested, when our children are being mowed down, or when we are struggling financially in every means possible in this country because of Jim Crow tactics, jackboot tactics, not only of law enforcement, but of the financial sector, of all the discriminatory laws that have been laid upon the black people for the last 200 years. They look the other way on that too. And when we say, hey, what about justice for us? They do the same thing Chris Cuomo's doing. They act like they don't know what we're talking about. They overlooked they overlooked 76 years of occupation in Israel. They overlooked 100 years of Jim Crow. Here, for us. They do the same thing to us. I know I can't tell you to take a higher. I can't tell you to take a higher road, but I can tell you to look at the broader picture. So, these people are not people that respect us either. They would not. They respect power. And they don't want to give an inch. And they want what they want. Give back the hostages. I agree, give back the hostages. I agree we should give back the hostages. Well, they should give back the hostages, and any hostages that Hamas, which is not Palestinians, Hamas is an organization. Those members of Hamas who took hostages should have to turn those hostages over. Who does not agree with that? Everyone should agree with that. Let me say that for the record. I do not condone, nor do I support, nor do I side with anyone who's committing war crimes. Okay? And innocent people being tortured, murdered, or anything. It's a shame you have to say that, but that's how bad it is. Just because I say what I'm witnessing here and what I've been witnessing the last 10 years, that I've been paying attention to this issue, when I say these people deserve to live with dignity, they deserve not to be living in this type of situation, I am not saying other people don't deserve to live their lives in peace. That would be crazy. But they don't say the same on the other side. They don't say, oh, okay, we want our hostages back and everybody should be in peace. They just talk about what they want. They don't talk about the Palestinians being in peace. They talk about what they demand. And folks, actually, the language that's being used between Chris Cuomo and Dr. West, though I appreciate Dr. West very much, it could be a lot more stern, man. I've been hearing talk about the statements that have been made. The statements that have been made by members of Israel. The terms that I've been hearing them use, they don't even refer to Palestinians as human beings. They call it cutting the grass. They call what they're doing to the Palestinians cutting the grass because it's getting too tall. They're talking about killing people. They call it cutting grass. Does that sound like people that are so righteous in justice that people should be losing jobs and careers because they call it out? Anybody refer to, it doesn't sound like you're that afraid of them if you call them grass. It doesn't sound like you're in fear and you're just defending yourself, Israel, when you say things like, we need to just cut the grass from time to time. You know, we got to cut the grass. I'm going to play a little bit more, Dr. West.
It is good to have you, sir. Happy Thanksgiving in advance. I'm thankful for you and your influence in my life. Now, I know why they don't want to give them all back.
Same time, though, you see, when you try every nonviolent effort, the first Intifada, 87, nonviolent, crushed. The second Intifada, 2000, mainly nonviolent, crushed.
Does
then
not
you're going to end up with
terrorism.
Hamas.
Does
No,
not
but I
justify
mean,
terrorism.
but brother, you got the U.S. Civil War with the armed guerrillas of George Washington, where they involved in terrorism, where they killed innocent English folk. When Nat Turner killed innocent white folk. They were wrong. They were wrong. Hamas is wrong. But they were occupied. They were resisting. Why? Because the world was paying no attention to the suffering of their children, just like right now Palestinian children are not receiving any attention from the U.S. government, from the Israeli government, other than to continue the genocide. That's the kind of response you're going to get about Hamas. Hamas was founded in 1988. Oh, you don't think Palestinians are fighting for their freedom and independence? Of course they are.
I'm not saying that they're not. Listen, to the extent that the Palestinians want their freedom, Hamas is only keeping them from getting it, as we both know. And I don't understand why the same kids on campuses and the same people in America aren't telling Hamas to resign and leave so that there can be a real democratic institution there and give the people of Palestine a chance at finding a way forward that is their own freedom and not under the yoke of oppression of an extreme Islamist organization.
But I'm trying to tell you, brother, when the Martin Luther King-like figures emerged in Palestine, and there was been waves of them, they were shut down. Every nonviolent effort was crushed. And as J.F. Kennedy said, if you make nonviolent revolution impossible, you're making a violent revolution inevitable, and a violent revolution commits war crimes. You and I are concerned about war crimes, whether it's in Rwanda with Tutsis, whether it's with Jews in Germany, whether it's with Palestinians right now in Gaza. We have to be morally consistent. But we can't lose sight of the larger structural and institutional realities in which people are being killed every day in the occupation beginning 1948, my brother.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Folks, I'm going to try to calm down, man, because I want to make sure we're real articulate on this, okay? Look at this, the simplicity of the pushback that Dr. Cornel West is trying to give Chris Cuomo, but not just Chris Cuomo, all of the detractors who say that if you are standing up for the Palestinians in this situation, that you're somehow supporting terrorism. That is such a fraudulent statement to make. I don't think you even make it out of good will if you have any knowledge of what's happening. Dr. West has told you that they've been occupied since, it's been 76 years, right? Since what, the 40s, the 50s? Someone knows in my chat when it was, but for 76 years. Hamas wasn't formed until 1988, and it was in a response to what? Why was Hamas formed? There you go. Why was Hamas formed? That answers the question. Hamas was formed in retaliation for the people against occupation. It wasn't like they had a reason to have it. And I don't think at all what's being here are people that are being fair and people that are being reasonable. Now, I understand that there's a lot of lies being told, man. A lot of people don't understand this at all. They watch corporate media, and corporate media doesn't share this. So I do want to give a certain amount of respect to Chris Cuomo, and hear me out, because he did allow Dr. West to come on the program. He knows Dr. West disagrees with him, and he allows him to speak. That's big of him. You know how many people won't let me come on their shows to talk about black people? A lot. They know what I'm going to say. They're aware that I'm going to say something that's real about the situation that black people are in the United States. And they don't want that smoke. They don't want those problems. They're like funny Tim, joking Tim, cool Tim. What you talk about? What you talk about? But they don't want me to tell no truths. No truths about my people, what's happening in America. That's the last thing they want. So what I'm saying is Chris Cuomo deserves a little bit of credit, and really a substantial amount of credit, because he's allowing someone to come onto his channel or his network, on his program, who's going to push back on him and embarrass him and say some things that his audience definitely doesn't want to hear. Chris Cuomo's audience does not support Palestinians being alive. They support Palestinians being unalived in support of Israel. So be very clear what Chris Cuomo's audience is. And the fact he's allowing Dr. West to come on and bump up against his ideology and piss off his viewers, I think that's commendable. So I had to think about it. And while as I was watching it, I was thinking about how few others would allow Dr. West to get his shots off like that, to explain himself, to also poke holes in these theories that are swimming around in corporate media. Not a lot of people would do it. So that's admirable. Hamas is labeled a terrorist organization. And if they are committing war crimes, they should be held accountable for that. The same should hold true for Israel. If Israel is committing war crimes, which you already know they are, they should be held accountable for it. I admire the fact that Dr. Cornel West is staying on his square. He's continuing to speak out about this issue. Why is he speaking out about this issue? It is everywhere. It is everywhere. It is being discussed on every network on the globe in the Western world. So I can't speak for China and some other countries. So let me speak for the Western world. The West. So Dr. West is speaking to all of those folks. It's important that he do so. I think this is what you have to do. This is going to be a long campaign. Dr. West is running for president of the United States. He's not running to get the nomination for the Green Party. He's not running to get the nomination for the Democratic Party. He's not running to get a nomination for the Republican Party. He's running against the winner of all those parties. He will run against Dr. Jill Stein. He will run against whoever wins the Republican nomination, who I'm assuming is Donald Trump, and he will run against Joe Biden if Joe Biden is in place. So we got a lot of time, Johnson. We have 11 months. And within that time, there are going to be a lot of opportunities. There's going to be a lot of things that come up. America has so much drama. I'm certain there will be an incident that will occur where other issues will be raised. And Dr. West, as a great steward for all things justice and for those who are disempowered, I imagine that Dr. West will speak up on the behalf of those people that are being aggrieved, on behalf of those people that are being wronged, on behalf of those people who are having injustice applied upon them. So until those issues come up along this journey, take a breath. That's all I'm saying. Take a breath, because there's going to be a lot more that's going to happen between now and November. A lot more is going to happen. Next November, not this one, next November. Okay? It's going to be a lot more that's going to happen. Well, obviously, not this November. That would be crazy, Tim. But I just want people to get that and wrap it around their heads, because I sense a lot of frustration. I want to recognize it. I understand it. But believe me, I've been doing this over 10 years, over a decade, right? And it's going to be a lot that's going to happen between now and then. And when those times come, let's watch Dr. West do his thing. I want to take a moment, though, to those people who are not too sure about why this is so important. They haven't really grasped this, because unfortunately, once again, there are a lot of people that won't talk about Dr. West. They won't talk about Dr. West at all. I got a problem with that. They can talk about what they want to talk about on their programs. I wonder why they never support any candidates ever. If we support a candidate, we can push the candidate. We can appeal to that candidate. We can also assist in helping spread the word. We can also, the difference between Dr. West and most of these other candidates is so vast. It's like a no-brainer for me. But the reason why I want to play the next clip is because I want people to understand, because I realize they're not hearing these types of debates. They're not hearing the information. They don't really know why people are upset about Palestinians being hurt. They don't really know why people are so focused on this. Listen to this next clip, and maybe that'll show you some why. That's what I want. Check it out.
The bombing, they're not making any distinctions between civilians and combatants. Right now, about 3,500 children have been killed. That's more than the number of children killed in every war zone in the world in 2020, 2021, 2022. Take for all the children killed in every war zone in the year 2020, in every war zone in the year 2021, in every war zone the year 2022, in each of those years, got more children in Gaza have been killed than for the whole of 2020, 21, 22. Yeah, that's a fact. So the fellow I was technically debating, though it really wasn't a debate, it was more like child abuse, because he didn't know anything,
He said nothing. Yes, it's true. He said nothing.
He sneeringly said, well, does that include Ukraine? Well, actually, it's an interesting statistic. In 20 months in the Ukraine, 20 months in Ukraine, 500 kids have been killed. In 3 weeks in Gaza, 3,500 have been killed. It's a murder plan. I can't say what the end game is going to be because Egypt is being adamant about not opening the Rafah border because it doesn't want the Palestinians to come in.
Okay. Yeah. Norman Finkelstein, Dr. Finkelstein, is an activist, a political activist, a political scientist, and he's taught at universities. I think he lost a job because he's one of the foremost, educators, foremost speakers on Palestinian and Israel. He is, his parents survived the Holocaust. He tells us he's been speaking on this issue for many years. And he's paid a hefty price teaching at an Ivy League school, losing his job. So him and Dr. West have that in common. And I just wonder if people heard that correctly. He said that Israel, as they're fighting Hamas, they say fighting Hamas, they're making no distinguishing between civilians and Hamas. They're just killing everybody. You understand what I'm saying? They're supposed to be at war with Hamas, but they're killing Palestinians with no distinguishing between the two. More Palestinian babies, children, have died so far in this last, 45 days? That have died in the entire 20-month Ukraine war. One more time. Let me say it a little bit more fluidity so I make sure people get what I'm saying. More Palestinian children have been killed in the last 45 days than have been killed in the entire Ukraine war that has been going on now for, a year, 2 years? I don't know, how long has it been? 2 years? 18 months? 20 months? And it's not by a little, it's by a lot. It's like 5 times more children have died in 45 days than in Ukraine's 2 years. Now, I know you want to know if Dr. West supports reparations before you can give a fuck about those kids. I hate reading my comment section, man. I hate reading my comment section while I'm doing my show, man. If Dr. West didn't support reparations, I would not be supporting him. Doesn't mean I wouldn't be put on this story. Has nothing to do with those 4,000 children killed in 45 days, man. It's really fucked up that we have this situation that black people are in America. It's really unconscionable. But we're supposed to be better people than that. And most of us are. Most of us are. A war crime is a war crime, no matter who commits it. So what they're whitewashing, what's happening in Israel, is that Israel is hitting kids too, like they hit anybody else. They're shooting children just as boldly as How the hell do you have such a bad target? How the hell are you so bad at target practice? Like, how are you managing to kill 10 times more children than any other conflict in the last 1, 2, 3 years? How was that? Just bad luck. How can you kill more children in 45 days than in any other conflict in the last 3 years? That's what Finkelstein, Dr. Norman Finkelstein said. I'm not saying it, he's saying it. I'm wondering what the answer is. How is that an accident? Now, I talked about Puffy in his lawsuit. I talked about, a lot of shit. Stephen A. Smith getting Shannon Sharp a job. I talked about Kyrie Irving when he almost lost his. Damn it, I'm going to talk about this too. Dr. West, you're right. It's okay. You know what? It's okay if people don't. It's okay if everybody doesn't want to hear about it. You know what? That's okay. There's a lot of other stories I'm going to cover tonight you might not want to hear either. I shouldn't take it personal, man. I get tired of hearing that same question. But it's going to come up a lot. I know it's going to come up. And when it does, I want Dr. West to lean into that question and just knock it out the park and just speak his mind. And then it'll be like, good. It'll be good. And I know that opportunity will come for Dr. West to speak to more issues concerning Black America. He may have to force the issue because no one really wants to debate him about black people. No one wants that issue to be in the forefront because they cannot hold a stick to Dr. West when it's going to come to talking about black people and what black people have been dealing with in America. So they're going to run from that. There was not a candidate running, save for Claudia de la Cruz, whose platform I haven't listened to totally, but I know she's a Latino sister, who looks like she may be well-versed in it, but I don't know, because I thought other people were, and they weren't either, so you can't go on nationality and, color, skin color, where you went to school, even what you call yourself. Call yourself an activist or a socialist or whatever. That doesn't matter when it comes to what you end up doing. All I'm saying is Dr. Cornel West, I'm glad that he's in this race. I'm glad he's getting an opportunity to talk about these issues on these larger platforms. And when it's time, and we should make it time, I hope he gets the same type of platform to discuss other issues. And I know when he is given those platforms to discuss other issues, such as reparations, a black agenda, issues that impact the black community in America, I'm sure he will speak up and say what needs to be said. And that's why I support Dr. West. Folks, go to Dr. West, go to CornelWest2024.com, CornelWest2024.com to be supportive of his candidacy, to volunteer. He's been making the rounds. I heard he was in Salt Lake City. He's been in LA. We're just getting started. We got so much ground to cover. Once again, this media apparatus is dead set against anybody speaking truth to power about Palestinians. They're also dead set against them speaking truth to power about any of us. You understand that, though? It's like a running thing. Here's my thing, guys. What I've realized that over the times that I've been covering important issues, that anything that's relevant, that is against the system, they don't talk about it. They don't want to talk really about black people issues. What's going on really with us? What they want to talk about is, oh man, someone robbed a store. Someone took some shoes out of the Nike store and ran. I'm going to cover that tonight. But you know, those are the type of stories they want to cover about us. They don't want to cover our economic castration, right? They don't want to cover our businesses being bombed out of existence at the turn of the century, and that's never rebounding. They don't want to cover that. They don't want to cover the fact that where white businesses took a hit from the lockdowns, our businesses were in the toilet already. They don't want to cover that. And it goes for everyone. They don't want to cover white kids ODing off fentanyl in West Virginia. They don't want to cover that. They didn't want to cover white veterans dying of weird cancers because of toxic burn pits in Afghanistan. They didn't want to cover that either. You understand what I'm saying? It's not just us. Anything that speaks against the system, they don't want to cover it. It ain't just Palestinians. It's anything. And I do mean anything. Okay? So we're going to have to push the issue. And when we find anybody we can who will speak up on those issues for us on a bigger stage, because that's all we need. That's what we're looking for. Bigger platforms to make our grievances known so we can get momentum behind them to force their hand in doing something about it. I say we got two things, y'all. We got money, and if you ain't got money, you got shame. What I mean by that is you can shame the opposition. If you don't have the money to buy them out of office, to pay someone to run them out, right? You got to use your voice. Because your voice, with other voices, can create attention. And if you create attention, you can shame them. And that's what gets them to move. Politicians hate shame. They hate being publicly embarrassed because that hurts their donations, which will hurt their careers. So, all right.
Subscribe to The Tim Black Show for more realness on politics and culture. See you there.